theory. So here what we are going to do, we are going to build a simple model to describe the status or equilibrium in the whole macroeconomy. I assume we live in a small village in which there is no government, no interaction with abroad. So aggregate expenditure in this case equals consumption and investment. Why? Because government expenditure zero, net export zero, because I assumed we live in a village in which there is no government, no interaction with abroad. In chapter 8, we will add the government. So we can always expand the model, but it's better to ease our understanding to start with a simple model. So we will start to build a curve which is called planned aggregate expenditure, and then we will discuss the equilibrium. So what is equilibrium? Farhana, could you read equilibrium for me?
Assalamu alaikum, Doctor.
Alaykum assalam, Farhana.
Yes, Doctor, I will. Equilibrium occurs when there is no tendency for change in the macroeconomic good market. Equilibrium occurs when planned aggregate expenditure is equal to aggregate output.
Okay, in very easy way, you remember we discussed equilibrium in macroeconomics. Equilibrium in macroeconomics occurs when a quantity demanded equals quantity supplied for a single product. And also we can apply the concept of equilibrium in the whole macroeconomy. And if we reach equilibrium, there will be no tendency for change. We will enjoy stability. In macroeconomy, we reach equilibrium when planned aggregate expenditure equals aggregate output. So what is a planned aggregate expenditure? Farhana.
The total amount of economy plans to spend in a given period equal to consumption plus planned investment.
Okay, so planned aggregate expenditure AE equals consumption plus planned investment. So we discuss about consumption and planned investment in the previous chapter. So if aggregate output Y equals a planned aggregate expenditure C plus I, we will enjoy equilibrium. But if aggregate output or aggregate income is higher than planned aggregate expenditure or less than planned aggregate expenditure, we will be at disequilibrium. So it's not necessary to enjoy equilibrium. If you remember the business cycle, most years we are far away from equilibrium. See this example. You remember this equation. We apply this equation, consumption function, in the previous chapter. Aggregate consumption equals 100 plus 0.75y. So 100 is the intersection point between consumption function and the vertical axis. What is 0.75? 0.75 is called marginal propensity to consume. So the slope of consumption function represents marginal propensity to consume. What is marginal propensity to save? Marginal propensity to save equals 1 minus 0.75 equals 0.25. Because marginal propensity to consume 0.75 and marginal propensity to save 0.25 equals always 1. Okay, so I will start with different level of income from 100 to 1000. Calculate aggregate consumption. We did this in the previous chapter. For example, if income is 100, what is consumption? So 100 times dot 75 equals 75 plus 100, it is 175. Let's say if income 400, what is consumption? 400 times dot 75, 300 plus 100, consumption will be 400. So we calculated consumption. A planned investment, we assumed that business sector decided to invest $25 billion regardless of the level of economic activity or regardless of the level of aggregate output. So it is fixed at 25. What is planned aggregate expenditure? C plus I. So 175 plus 25 equal 200. Okay. So for example, if income is 200, is aggregate output equals a planned aggregate expenditure? The answer is no. Why? Because planned aggregate expenditure is more than aggregate output. Try to understand this point. Demand is more than supply. We produce 200, but we sell 275. What will happen to business inventory if we produce 200 and we sell more than 200? So there will be an planned decrease in inventory by 75. This number minus this number, it is 75 minus 75. So use this equation, Y minus planned aggregate expenditure. So 200 minus 275, it is minus 75. And it is by logic, you can get it. So because we produce 200, we sell more than 200, so there will be any planned decrease in inventory. Are we at equilibrium? No. Since demand is much higher than supply, by next year we will produce more. So we will continue producing more till we reach equilibrium, in which aggregate output 500 equals planned aggregate expenditure. There is no tendency to change. So there will be no change in inventory and we will enjoy equilibrium. Okay, let's take another example at 800. At aggregate output of 800, a planned aggregate expenditure is 725. So demand is lower than supply. We produce 800, but we sell less than 700. So 800 minus 725 equals 75. So this is called unplanned increase in inventory. Why there is unplanned increase in inventory? Because we produce 800, but we sell less than 800. The difference will show as an increase in inventory. Are we at equilibrium? No. Since demand is lower than supply, by next year we will produce less till we reach equilibrium. So what I will do now, I will use a graph to show the same concepts. Okay, so in this graph, this blue curve is called consumption function, and it shows positive relationship between consumption and aggregate output. The intersection point is 100 and the slope of the line is 0.75. And also a planned investment is 25, it is fixed regardless of the level of aggregate output. What I will do, I will take consumption function and bring it up. I will drag the consumption function up and keep the vertical distance between them equals to 25. So the new curve represents planned aggregate expenditure. because I added planned investment to consumption. So now the dark red is planned aggregate expenditure. I will take planned aggregate expenditure in the lower panel of the graph. This is planned aggregate expenditure, and I will add 45-degree line. Where is the equilibrium point? The equilibrium point at the intersection point between planned aggregate expenditure and 45-degree line. In this dot, it refers that aggregate output 500 and the planned aggregate expenditure is also 500. So we will enjoy equilibrium. For example, at 200, at aggregate output of 200. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to explain the same what I said when I made a comment on the table. So at aggregate output of 200, a planned aggregate expenditure 275. So demand is more than supply. We produce 200, but we sell more than 700. The difference between them, which is shows by the vertical distance, 275 and 200. This is called unplanned fall in inventory or unplanned decrease in inventory. Why our inventory will decrease? Because we sell more than what we produce. So the vertical distance refers to unplanned decrease in inventory. By next year, we will produce more till we reach equilibrium. Another example, at 800. At 800 aggregate output, a planned aggregate expenditure 725. So we produce 800, we sell less than 800. Supply is more than demand. Since we sell less than what we produce, the vertical distance refers to unplanned increase in inventory. Why there is unplanned increase in inventory? Because we produce 800, we sell less than 700. So 800 minus 725, it is plus 75. So this is unplanned increase in inventory. By next year, we will produce less. Why we are going to produce less? Because demand represented by 725 is less than supply represented by aggregate output of 800. So could you answer this question? We just explain it. What is the right answer? So at 800, what is the change in inventory?
Unplanned inventory is rising.
A, B, C, D.
B.
P.
What's your name?
P.
B, doctor.
What's your name? Your name is secret. So the right answer is B. So at 800, there is unplanned increase in inventory by 75, and output will tend to decrease, will tend to fall till we reach equilibrium level. So till now, I explained one approach to equilibrium in which aggregate output equals planned aggregate expenditure. There is another approach to explain equilibrium. So aggregate output can be allocated among consumption and saving. So if my salary 10,000 and I spend 8,000, so the rest 2,000, it's called saving. So what I will do, instead of writing Y, I will write C plus S. So at equilibrium, aggregate output or C plus S equals planned aggregate expenditure. So we can remove C from both sides. So we can reach equilibrium when aggregate saving equals planned investment. So again, we can reach equilibrium when aggregate saving equals planned investment. So we can show it in this diagram. So equilibrium can be reached at the intersection point between saving function and planned investment function. It shows that at 500 we will reach equilibrium. See here at 200, investment or injections, which is part of demand, is higher than saving or leakage, which is part of supply. So injections to stimulate the market and leakage, part of our income, doesn't go directly to purchase goods and services. This is saving. So what will happen since demand is higher than supply? Any planned decrease in inventory, business sector will react by increasing output. At 600, saving is more than investment. So investment is less, demand is less, demand is weak. So that will show as any planned increase in inventory. Business sector will react by decreasing output. So this is what I said. If we are at 200 or at 800, there will be adjustment till we reach equilibrium. So we will not live forever at this equilibrium. Let's see here calculation. So click on chapter 7, the first approach. Let me see who is with me. Yusuf, take care. Yusuf, take care. Drive slowly. Don't be in a hurry. So, Sheikh عبيد, كيف حالك؟ محمد عدنان. صالح. عالية حسن.
Yes, doctor.
عالية Hassan, could you help me with this question 7.1?
Yes, doctor.
Go ahead.
Suppose consumption function is specified as C equal $50 plus 0.75Y. Investment spending is $100 and the net export total $35 of the hypothetical economy in 2020. Find
algebraically from algebra. Yes, go ahead.
The equilibrium level of output by
equating
aggregate output and aggregate spending.
Okay, so see here, don't get confused. A gross domestic product, according to expenditure approach, equals C plus I plus G plus net export. In this example, without mentioning explicitly, there is no government. So I assume there is no government, but I added international sector. So why I put the aggregate output or gross domestic product or Y equals C plus I plus net export, X minus M net export. Net spending to that spending by international sector to purchase goods produced domestically. Okay, so here equilibrium level of output, that means calculate the level of Y. How we do this? First of all, put the equation of C. So C equal 50 plus 0.75Y plus I. Planned investment equal 100. Net export equals 35. So here what is missing? Only Y. So let's sum these numbers. 100 plus 50 plus 35, it is 185. I will shift 0.75 to another side. It will be minus. So Y minus 0.75. So this is without saying it is 1Y. So 1 minus 0.75. See here, 1 minus 0.75 equals 0.25Y equals 185. So Y equals 185 divided by 0.25 equals 740. So the equilibrium level of output is 740. Is it clear till this moment?
Doctor?
Do you have a question? Yes.
From where you get the one that you minus from 1 minus 0.75, then you get 0.25.
Okay, so see here, when I say Y, that means it is 1Y. It is, without saying, it is 1Y, not 2Y, it is 1Y.
Okay.
So here, 1Y minus 0.75Y equals 1 minus 0.75 equals 0.25. So from where I got 0.25, 1 minus 0.75. So we got 0.25. Okay?
Okay, doctor, thank you.
So we got the equilibrium level of output. So Ali Hassan, read B for me.
Consumption when output is at the equilibrium level.
Okay, so calculate consumption. What is the level of consumption if we reach equilibrium? So this is consumption function. I will substitute 740 for Y. So I think it's clear. 740 times 0.75 equals plus 50 equals 605. What is the saving? What is the saving? So there is an easy way to calculate saving. Consumption minus income minus consumption. So if I say what is saving? What is saving? Income 740 minus consumption 605 equals 135. This is the saving. Let us make it more scientifically. So Y can be allocated between consumption and saving. So saving equals Y minus C. So this is Y minus C. This is consumption function. So it is minus 50, 1 minus 27, 27.75. It will be, this is called saving function. So put 740 instead of Y, you will get saving. So again, this is a saving function. So maybe it is another question. This is saving function. How to derive saving function from consumption function. So here we derived. Okay, establish that leakage equal injections. Leakage, part of income, parts of income don't go directly to purchase goods produced domestically. Injections, money purchased goods produced domestically. So injection, something good. So what is leakage? Leakage, saving plus import. Why I say import as leakage? Because import is part of our income, doesn't go directly to purchase goods produced domestically. Injection, investment, this is spending by business sector to expand their project. So they will purchase machines from our market. Export, this is spending by international sector to purchase goods produced domestically. So what I will do now, I will shift M to another side. It will be minus. So this is not export. So now we calculated saving 135, and from the question investment 100, not export 35. So we established that leakage equals injections. This is another question for you, for your practice. Let's take another question. So thank you, Ali. Sheikh Abaid, Muhammad Adnan, Saleh. So I will register those students as absent. Abdul Aziz Mubarak, Abdullah Isa, Hamdan Abdullah, Lana Umar.
Yes, doctor.
دكتور ذكرت اسمي؟
والله صار لي ساعة أنا أذكر باسمك يا
تو
ريال.
حمدان. تو تقول حمدان.
والله يا ريال حمدان، يا وينك يا رجال يا حمدان؟ حمدان okay, read question number 7.3.
Suppose saving function is specified as S equals minus $40 plus 0.30 Y, and investment spending is $120. For $60 of a hypothetical economy in 2020, find
Algebraically. Yeah, A.
The equilibrium level of output by equating leakage and injection.
Okay.
Leakage
So yes, thank you very much. Okay. So find the equilibrium level of output. Find the level of Y. What is Y? By equating leakage and injection. We just explain equilibrium can be reached when saving equals planned investment. So here I added international sector. So imports is considered as leakage. Why? Because it is part of our income. Doesn't go directly to purchase goods produced domestically. It's gone abroad. While investment is injection. Why? Money spent by business sector to purchase machines or housing units produced domestically. Export, spending by international sector to purchase goods produced domestically. Okay. So what I will do, instead of S, I will write the equation minus 40 plus 30Y. Import from the equation imports equal 40. Equals investment 120. Export 60. So we got, now we organize the information. So what I will do, just I need this 40 minus 40 will be deleted with this 40, right? So we left with 0.3y. 120 plus 60, 180. So y equals 180 divided by dot 30 equals 600. Let me check it. 180 divided by dot 3 equals 600. So equilibrium level of output 600. So try to calculate saving. What is the saving? This is the saving function. Substitute 600 for y. So let me use my calculator. 600 times dot 3 or 30 equal this minus, see here, minus 40. Minus 40 equal 140. So saving will be 140. What is consumption? The fast way to calculate consumption, income 600 minus saving 140. But I like to calculate consumption function. So we need to use this. So y equals c plus s. C equals y minus s. Y minus, this is saving function. So we can simplify. Minus times minus, it will be plus 40. Minus times plus, it will be minus dot 30. So here we got 40. 1 minus 30, it will be dot 70. So 1y minus dot 30y, it will be plus dot 70y. So this is consumption function. Substitute 600 for y, you will get the consumption. Okay. Establish that equilibrium level of output equals aggregate spending. So y equals c plus I plus net export. Still government expenditure is 0. So we calculate consumption, investment from the equation, export and import from the equation. So see here, this is component of expenditure. I didn't add leakage such as saving. So why we put here net export? Because according to